if people started to get to know each other and we started noticing a pattern that someone else had that wasn't supportive for them growing or wasn't helping them do what they said they wanted to or learn or whatever it was doing, they could flag the person, and just is all you would say is like, hey, Zainer, I noticed that you're, reacting to what looks like fear and not addressing this problem, or I noticed that it looks like you have this pattern coming up, and then you, or if someone was addressing me, I could just look inside me and see if it had any truth. And that's the first step, I think, is before you even try to get rid of the pattern, is seeing the pattern. So what is that story? Because we all have a million stories running around inside our heads, from walking through the parking lot and someone may be behind us, to if I ask for help, no one will help me, or if I try to go make a friend, they'll reject me, or if I apply for the scholarship, I won't get it, I don't have enough money, I'm messy, I'm lazy, right? We all have a million stories we have inside ourselves of how we see ourselves or how we see the world. And before we can do anything with those stories, we first need to see them, identify them, where did they come from, and then, do I want that story? Is it working for me? If I don't, having someone point out that I'm reacting with that story then gives me the choice. Oh, that's that story or that pattern. I could change it. I have power.
Now, when somebody flagged you, did you ever find yourself getting defensive over that? So it's interesting. Can I even see it if I'm reacting? Again, it might be fear, because sometimes we react to fear.
Yeah.
If I'm reacting in a way that isn't allowing me to look at it, did you find it, or did you notice people get defensive around flagging?
Yeah, we definitely did. And there was two different big aspects to that. The first was we decided to, after a while, to not react then, that we would not let ourselves be defensive at all. So even if we were feeling defensive internally, we would just say, thank you, and let it lie at that. That was all we had to do, or what we agreed we would do, is just hear it, acknowledge that we heard it, and then it was up to us to look inside and not be defensive. There was, to begin with, some flag backs, wait, I think you're saying that because you're triggered because of this kind of thing, and things can get pretty messy. Or there might be a legitimate, often when people are kind of flagging, they might be feeling themselves, right? It's scary flagging somebody. So they might actually be having their own reaction and have their own story and their own issue that could be flagged, but we agreed not to flag, even if there was another dynamic going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So maybe I'm complaining, right? I'm whining up a storm, and you're really irritated, but you flag me for being victimized. You'd say, Sarah, you're being victimized, but I hear in your voice that you're also irritated. At that point, we agreed that I wouldn't flag you back for being irritated and victimized yourself by my whining, because that's your job, right? You could just walk away from my whining and go do something else. So that's your story. I'm surrounded by these whiny, annoying people, right? That might be the story that's going on with you. But since you flagged first, I would hear your flag, not defensive and not reactive to you, and even if there might be another dynamic going on, because there's still truth, probably.
Right. I was going to say, did you feel as though that sometimes the flagging was a little invalidating of feelings? So maybe I really was feeling a certain way, or did that come up and did that get addressed, I imagine? Oh,
that was huge for a lot of us. I want to be seen. I want to share what's really going on for me. Yeah, it's really hard to not say what's really going on for you when you get a flag. It's painful, almost just hear it, and you feel like you're just kind of swallowing a stone sometimes if you it's wait, but the reason why is you feel so vindicated, often why you want to explain yourself.
But the feeling's real.
The feelings are real. And so the flag isn't to say that what you're doing is invalid. It's just to say you might have some choices right now, and there might be some patterns in your brain that are going on. This might be a good time to look at what's going on. That's all it's really, at least that's all I think it's really doing, is giving you an opportunity to pause and hear that somebody else thinks there might be something going on for you. And now it's your chance to check in. Is there something really going on for me?
Yeah.
I know. And then practice that muscle of not being defensive is actually like, it's like doing push-ups. It's emotional push-ups. It's like, rah, I will not react. It's really, I won't be defensive. Yeah, it's pretty tricky.
Do you feel like most of the individuals, or a lot of the individuals who you were with, learned so much about themselves? I mean, I guess you can't not, obviously.
Yeah.
But I feel like with that sort of flagging and that process, I feel like it would force you to look at yourself so much more than if you weren't flagging each other.
Yeah.
And if you weren't building those relationships.
Oh, I think it helped immensely. So Xandra didn't have a chance. She's been out and like visiting farms and stuff, so she didn't get to listen to my talk last week because she didn't have computer access. And I don't think I talked about it that much, though. I started saying that there was some young people who hadn't really done the program before, but were really active, like volunteers that were part of Teaching Drum, that then came into the year with us. And it was amazing to see how they could work. A woman who'd been a volunteer, a younger woman, and she was asked by another woman if she could swap lodges, or the one woman could move into the same lodge that she was staying in. At this point, we all kind of had agreed to stay in different lodges, and I was right there listening as this request came in. And my reaction, I think, if it had been me and I hadn't felt comfortable with it, I would have kind of maybe nodded and been like, yeah, let's talk about it. Like, I'm almost positive that at that point that's what my reaction would have been. I wouldn't have really spoken my truth. My new friend, the younger woman, took a deep breath and she said, I'm feeling scared to say this, but as you ask that, my first reaction is that I'm feeling resistant, and I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that I don't feel good with it at the moment. And then they spent an hour and a half processing because basically she was giving her what in our culture was a huge rejection. Not avoiding conflict, speaking up in the whole group to say things that the rest of the group, had just like kind of washed over, or talk about the emotional push-ups. So there's different parts of the brain is actually stimulated. So you have that reactor, the back of the brain, and it's near the spine. Then the midbrain, there's some patterns of behavior. The forebrain is your consciousness. And so when you flag people, it's actually bringing a consciousness available. It's bringing people to the forebrain. Instead of staying in that back, that reactive and the pattern brain, let's bring it to the forebrain. Okay, so oh, sure, you could move it, or let's talk about it later, is my fear in the base of the brain. That's what you're saying. Well, it might be a pattern that you've developed over time. That just becomes a habit, automatic reaction. Yeah. And then you would just react. Right. So then the flag brings it back in again to my forebrain. Yeah, and then I have the opportunity to make the pattern anew, to try a different pattern. Yeah. Yeah. The practice of that, too. And do we have people in our lives who will support that? Yeah, and it's interesting, even in conversation, or just in this moment, you had said, when you come in with this crabby mood, and a little part of me was like, well, I'm not crabby right now, and so I'm flagging myself in my head of like, I just got defensive over Sarah giving an analogy, and it's fascinating just to watch, or just to see that. Right. It's like, what is going on in my brain? And it was very quick. It was like, I thought that, I was like, no, she's just giving an example, but it's interesting because I'm curious if there's patterns that we create over time that lead me, like, why would I even get defensive over that? You're giving an analogy. I knew you were giving a story.